All right, guys, it is 10 o'clock, and I want to welcome everybody to today's Prospect Live. I want to make sure everybody can see our start screen again. If you could just give me a thumbs up. All right, perfect. So I want to welcome everybody today. This is our Prospect Live with Project Solar System. The thing that excites me about this, guys, this is a international company looking at doing business in the U.S. Um, our guests today are actually in Jordan and in Austin, Texas. So I want to thank everybody for coming. I love technology, and it should be an exciting show today. Let's do some of the beginning stuff. Our agenda today, we're going to meet our GSLI team. We're going to kind of go over an overview of the project. Then we'll get in and dive in and meet the project. And then, as we always do, we'll go into some pre-formatted and submitted questions from some of our GSLI communities. And then we'll go live with some questions and answers. Should you be here? A lot of people are asking that. We will have community clients here. We always appreciate our communities that support GSLI and are part of our community network. We've got some trial communities that we've invited in here to kind of really learn about the process of how we communicate with our projects and full transparency with the project so that they can get all their questions and make sure that their communities are a good match for the projects. We've got some observing companies. I want to thank you for attending today. We look forward to hosting your Prospect Live soon, and this should give you a real living example of how we operate and how efficient we are in helping you with your site selection. And then we've just got some communities that might not match the exact parameters of this project, but want to kind of listen and learn and dive into the minds of the prospects to see how they can become better stewards of what they submit and put in front of prospects to better position their companies or communities in getting on the short list. First of all, I want you all to mark your calendars. Those of you that have been attending our master series, they are educational opportunities. We've had a ton of requests for us to go through and do a mastering the project portal where all the magic happens in terms of submissions and the tools that we have provided in our project portal. So we're going to dive in and go in and do a live example of how somebody can join into the portal and start working projects in less than 10 minutes in terms of identifying working projects, viewing some of the recordings of our prospect lives, and getting involved with projects. That's going to be on Wednesday, August 25th at 1 p.m. And really big reminder, Ashley wanted me to remind all of our communities that have been interested in submitting on Project Steel Housing. Um, its deadline is tomorrow, Friday, August 13th. So if you have any questions or feel that you went into haven't got your submission in, please make sure you do by tomorrow. A couple housekeeping items. Everybody should already be muted. When we're going live, if you have an opportunity and it's a detailed question, click raise your hand and it will allow me to. Mary, I see you have your hand raised. We'll typically save those for the Q&A section, and we'll ask all of our questions in the Q&A box. So down at the bottom, you'll see a Q&A. As we go through the presentation, start filtering in your questions, and those will queue them up for us to answer. And as a reminder, we are recording, and we will transcribe this um, Prospect Live event for ease of review and putting together your submissions. And the transcriptions are tremendously helpful to fast forward and get the answers to any questions you might have. Who's with us today? Of course, I'm with you. My name's Eric Kleinsorge. I am the CEO. Been doing this for 27 years now and really enjoy the process of connecting communities with companies. But ultimately, what we really feel proud of is creating jobs. And when we see jobs created in communities, we understand that they are making an economic impact and making a positive impact on our overall economy. We've got Ashley Kleinsorge. She is our project manager. She is in the trenches. day in and day out. She's communicating, working with these projects, understanding their needs, scheduling our prospect lives, scheduling their submissions and reviews. So she is our um, person on the ground that's really communicating with the projects. We've got Mohammed. Um, Mohammed is in Jordan today, so we're excited to be able to use this technology to be speaking with him. Diana, want to thank Diana. She is actually on vacation in Austin and taking some time out of her day to make sure that we get all of the Q&As answered for this project. And we've got Iad, and Iad is the CFO for Project Solar Systems. Quick review about GSLI. We are a consulting firm. We both help the communities and we help expanding companies. And we do that by bridging the gap and putting them together. We are an exclusive group of communities and we work building our GSLI community network of cities in certain states. And we typically strive for around 5 communities per state. And the difference between those communities and normal communities, projects are always a priority, but our GSLI communities really get the first at bats in terms of putting together the project needs and making sure that those are a fit for the company. And if not, we go outside of those communities and accept one submission per year from non GSLI communities so that we can make sure that we get the project everything that they need. Quick stats, 2,125 projects over these 27 years, 53,125 and growing are the number of jobs that we've created, 6.3 billion in total capital investment, and 31.8 million square feet of manufacturing and building space that we've secured for our projects. We currently have 72 active projects in our portal, and all the projects can be viewed in our new portal, which is at new.gsliprojectportal.com. That's where all the magic happens. Like I said, that's where you can make your submission, you can take notes, you can put them in your pipeline, and you can really start building an effective business attraction tool for your community. So about the project, this is a quick overview. The facility size that Project Solar Systems is looking for, we started out talking about 500,000 square foot, and we've been able to hone in on, based on some equipment size and efficiencies, we've been able to work that to 250,000 square feet, which makes it a little more accessible to a multitude of communities because they are looking for an existing building. As you'll see, this is a very quick, fast track project. The last couple of our projects, like Quick Charge, if you guys were able to attend that, we've narrowed it down to 4 cities for their first manufacturing plant and should be making an announcement within a month. Project Solar Systems is looking for a similar fast-paced or fast-tracked search and would really like to identify their location over the next 1 to 2 months. New jobs, very hefty number of 289, and we will dive into what those jobs are comprised of and the salaries in just a moment. Capital investment, 80 to 100 million in capital investment. And on this locations of interest, and we'll get Project Solar Systems to clarify this. These are some states that they've initially identified as having very aggressive grants, incentives, and proactive in attracting solar and renewable energy type companies. But in all honesty, we're doing a national search. So later on, we're going to do a poll to see who else might qualify and meet those parameters. So if you're not in one of those states, don't fear. You still should be here listening. Some project insight. Now, this is where we try to give some insight so that the communities can learn what type of methods we use to get in touch with the project. I want to bring Ashley on for a few moments just to talk about how you engaged, how you worked with, how you found Project Solar Systems, and give an idea of what you did with them. Ashley?
Yeah, so I came across this lead while I was actually just scanning through Google looking for articles regarding expanding companies. And I came across a press release about this company planning to build a 1 gigawatt or a very large factory in the US. And obviously, I become very excited when I come across press releases like that, just because it's exciting working with companies that you really get to help navigate the entire US for the best site locations. And this is their first US facility. So, really, there's no better time to work with companies like this and find them their best sites. Working with companies in completely different areas of the world isn't always the easiest considering the time difference. So, I do want to say a huge thank you to Mohammed, Iyad, and Diana for staying late in the office or working odd hours to make sure we can have our meetings and stay up to date on the project. This really is a great opportunity for the city they land in. So, we're super excited to share more about this project with you all today, and may the best site win.
Great, thank you. So the first part of this, we're going to go through some submitted questions. Mohammed, if you want to come on board and kind of unmute your mics, we'll just kind of dive in. We're going to talk about your project. But first, I always like to paint a picture. Could you tell our listeners and our communities that are with us today, kind of talk about your project, what it's going to do, what kind of impact, and what industry it's going to meet the needs of?
Hi, Eric. Hi, everybody. Thank you for hosting us. It's highly appreciated. The project is simply it's a factory. We need to build a facility in the US that can produce PV panels, a large scale factory. We believe that this factory can cover 2 to 3% of the national demand. That's because the national demand will double next year. That's the main reason. It was like 6% of the current national demand. And we have an intention to expand the factory or double the size in the third year. So basically, it will be just simply a solar panel factory. It will be highly automated, of course. It will create some jobs, 289 jobs at the early stages. And it will be up to the newest technology of manufacturing of the solar panels.
Perfect. So, what would you say in terms of taking a look at the U.S. market? What are your key motivations of the expansion? Is it the size of the market, the timing? What would you say is your driving motivation factor?
So basically, there's two main reasons. One of them, of course, is the size, but the size cannot help without internal regulation in the country that can really support the local industry. And to be honest, with the new administration, even the last administration, but with the both combination of the new regulation and old regulation, there's a good protection against, let's say, straightforward, the Chinese panels, which will make the U.S. an attractive, let's say, country to build the panels inside it, because you can compete the foreign panels easily with the protection and safeguards available today against even other than Chinese, most of the panel suppliers.
Perfect. So, in terms of must-haves, we got a lot of various communities in terms of size, in terms of covering regions. If you were to say these are some of the must-haves that a community needs to have to even qualify to make your short list, what are some of the must-haves?
Okay, one of the things that is really important for us as a startup company in the US is to work on a state that have internal market in itself. For example, just an example, California itself is around 4 gigawatt consumption per year. So it's 4 times the factory production. And therefore, you can consume a lot of the panels that you are producing inside the same state. That will save a lot of costs and shipping and other stuff. So basically, one of the main reason or main attraction for us is to go with one of the big size states. Of course, also the incentives is important, and to have a utility, cheap utility, for example, to have a lower cost of the panels. Yes, there is a protection against Chinese panels, but still we need to be competitive for the U.S. market itself.
Perfect. So, in the breakdown of jobs, you've done a tremendous uh, job of putting together a spreadsheet for us. So I'm going to kind of go through
Yeah.
that. In terms of employee details, I've broken it down into, I think it's 4 or 5 different types of positions. So we've got
Sure.
general and admin, which their titles, and we'll make this available on the in the portal as a download, so somebody can take an in-depth look at the various positions. But we've got 17 positions, which will accommodate 1.5 million in payroll. We've got fixed operations. We've got 11 employees that'll account for 987,000, just under 1 million in payroll. We've got variable operations. Speak to me about variable operations. What type of employees are those?
It's highly skilled employee, especially in the quality assurance. It's between like a diploma degree, most probably will be for the quality assurance engineers. They need to understand the product and how it's built. Also, there is the maintenance side. We need somebody who really understands the equipment, the mechanism, the automation. So it's slightly, let's say, higher skill than the standard unskilled labor.
Perfect. And that accounts for 3.8 million in
True.
payroll. We've got variable factory positions. That looks like still. Well, talk to me about those, because that's a big part of your employee base. 204 employees.
Sure, it's a major part. So we have let's say unskilled labor or let's say semi-skilled labor, and we have high skill operations who need to understand how to work with PLC automation machines to operate the very sophisticated equipment that we will get on board. So mainly these parts. Also there is the security, and there is some people who need the hand skill like the repairing part. So there is always a small part of the production that need to be repaired manually, and we need only 4 per shift, so 12 in total.
Okay, perfect. And I do see some questions flowing into the chat box. If you could go ahead and move those over into the Q&A box so that we can have them queued up. So the total number of employees is the 289 for a total of 15,279,360 in payroll. And as we've been talking over the last couple of days, that's year one, correct?
True.
And do you see any growth projections from that into year 3, year 5, or would you be opening additional facilities?
Yeah, Eric, just to give you a small example, here in Jordan, when we started with much more smaller size, and we expanded 6 times in the last 10 years. So when the market is there, and the market here is very much more smaller than the market in the US. So basically, in any manufacturing facility, when the demand is there and when your production line is filled up, you need to expand always. So we have, for now, our plan to expand, hopefully, it depends on the first year, on the third year, to have the production the third year almost doubled.
Perfect. All right. So in terms of going back to the questions, are there any special requirements when it comes to logistics? Will you be using ports, airports, rail, highway?
So basically, ports is very important thing for us because there is some of the raw material which will be imported. I'm not sure when we can get it totally US made. This is one of the things that we was discussing even with the government while discussing this project. But till today, there's many the material will be imported. Therefore, the ports is very important for us. We will have around 8 containers per day as an average incoming materials, and therefore 8 container per day as outgoing material. So yes, ports is very important. Airports is not that much. Rails and highway, maybe highway, yes, for the trucks and whatsoever, depending on the location of the state. Finally, which state we go with.
And you'll be shipping a lot of the panels to distributors, correct?
True.
So that, in terms of getting them to market, they'll be setting up. Will you set up the distributorships, or you'll be locating the distributorships?
We have already a good relation with many US dealers already since we exported almost quarter of our production to the US. So basically, we have some good network, but definitely we will grow that network after we expand the production.
Okay. And I think you answered this one earlier. Why the U.S. Over some other countries? Because you've been growing rapidly. What brought your attention to the U.S.?
Again, the main reason is the protection. I mean, for us, we work with different countries. As I said, almost quarter of our production is for the U.S. We sell other countries that have special protection, especially against Chinese panels, like Morocco, like Tunisia, for example, even some of the surrounding countries. However, the market there is not enough for a size to have a minimum, let's say, requirement to build a factory to expand outside. But for the US, it's different. The factory that we will start is double our current factory and still will cover only 3% of the national demand. So market is there, protection is there. This is the main two reasons for us to come. And finally, it looks profitable market when you have that two items available.
Okay. Now, in terms of some of the other projects that we work with, they look for clusters. So, like companies moving into areas. Um, and so, a lot of the cities will present that they have an industry cluster in the renewable energy, or they'll have a renewable energy business park that is ready for a company like yours. Does that create a positive or a negative in your mind?
No, it's positive, definitely. This is one of the things that we discussed, the state and how much it have an attractive laws for renewable energy. That means that it will create this internal market, and therefore we will be much more closer to the market itself.
Okay. Now, this you and I have discussed pretty in depth in terms of because of the number of employees, the importance of the training of these employees to train them up to your skill set. Kind of talk to me a little bit about the importance of the training assistance programs states and communities can offer.
I believe it's very important for many reasons. When we are talking about renewable energy, many people think that okay, US is advanced on renewable energy; they have a huge installation. Yes, it's true, but in our side, we are talking about manufacturing, and in the manufacturing side, still there is not that much factories available in the US for this specific technology. Therefore, training is very important for us on the manufacturing level, quality assurance level, on understanding the PV panel, how it's created, how it's manufactured, how we can check the quality, the productivity, all the requirement for the production. I work in production several years, so I little bit understand more about production. So it's we need a skilled people who get training to get the maximum efficiency and maximum through output from the production lines. It's very important to have people who understand that and to understand how that might affect the cost. It will affect it really in a big time.
Perfect. So, as we talked earlier, you've identified some states. Talk to me about how you've identified these states. I've got a poll that I'm going to put up here in a second um, about states that are very renewable energy friendly. You've identified some states that have special programs, those types of things. Talk to me about the importance of that.
So basically, the states that we start to look on it and we identify it was based on the internal market size as a start. So most of them can cover 50% to 400% of the factory production capacity, which is a decent volume that even give us the let's say appetite to expand really fast to cover the internal demand of the state itself, then start to look outside how to go outside the state. So basically, the main reason was, or the main, let's say, choice was based on the market size. But that's why we are here. We need to take a look on other incentives, on other possibilities. Maybe there's some things that we did not see, and we want to take a look on that and understand more, and that might really affect our decision.
Perfect. If we could go ahead and put up the poll. We've put a little poll here. It's basically, does your state have specific renewable energy programs for attracting new companies? If you could go ahead and put it in there, what we will do, we'll capture your emails and we will put those as a kind of on a map so that they can understand some of the states that have some of these programs in line for renewable energy type companies. Talk to me about incentives. Now, incentives are kind of never really the driving factor for for a project, but an important part when getting started. What are some of the incentives that would really help you in terms of um, uh, getting the operation up and going as fast as you need? Because I know you have some build out that you're going to have to do with the facility. What maybe energy costs, those types of things. What are some incentives that you've been looking at and considering that would be most helpful for you?
So always a tax incentive will be a great thing to have. However, some states and they have a special incentive to the made-in-state product, like an appointing system. Finally, this incentive, for example, if you install the panels that is produced in a specific state, in the same state, the installer or the end user will get more, let's say, subsidies or tax refund for his project. And in this case, that will create even a more momentum for sales inside the state itself. So these type of states sometimes hidden, but sometimes one of the real important motivation for us to go inside the state and decide. It highly depends on the momentum of sales that the incentive can create as the most important item. Secondly, how we can save by the tax incentive or any other available incentive in each state.
Perfect.
So, yeah.
So right now we've got the opportunity. Those are all the questions that were submitted. We've got some questions in here that have been flowing in. I'm going to start at the top. The first question is from Brenda Daniels. She's an amazing community of ours. She represents Electricity, so it's a regional group on the East Coast that represents multiple communities. She's asking, what is the electric load data? That what's kind of the electric load that you'll need for your facility? Do you have that identified?
Yeah, I have the total consumption. It's around 12 gigawatt hour annually or 1 gigawatt hour per month. We need to transfer that to the load, but it's not hard to calculate. I need to come back to my engineers and check it up.
Okay. And that
Yeah.
data, just so you know, Brenda and everybody else, we will, as we consume more data and information on the project, we always do those as updates on the project inside the portal. Um, when are you targeting the start of production?
We hope we can make it to Q3 2022.
Yeah, and
Start
that's
the
why this
production.
is very fast tracked.
Yeah.
We've anticipated about 8 9 months. Are there any equipment needs that you need to have produced that take X amount of months to be made, or do you already have your equipment? You'll be bringing it to the U.S.
Yeah, well, we have the equipment already. I mean, for the especially the machines. Other equipment like, for example, air conditions or the standard mechanical equipment, of course, would be secured from the U.S. if the building need that.
So I've got a question here from Matt Davis. Um, this would be I'm going to say it'd have to be a pretty miracle build to suit, but would you even consider a build to suit? And I talked with this to you yesterday, kind of about sometimes some communities have a building in process, might be 80%, 90%, and a new company can come in and finish out the last 10, 20% to their specs, or they might have a spec building um, that's not quite ready. But would you consider a total build to suit if it could be done quick enough? Or
I'm not sure about that because we still have the flexibility on our equipment. I mean, with some special belts that we are using in the production line, we can really twist the line a little bit and we can make it match most of the facilities. Therefore, I think maybe ready buildings will be the easy option, especially on the urgency that we need to build a plant based on it.
okay, perfect. Next question is from Cindy Wallace. Cindy, hello. We've worked with Cindy in several different cities. She's now in Kansas. She's asking, Kansas isn't on that initial short list. One of the challenges they may have, they don't have a direct port, but they may have a rail port or a land port that they can transport the product from port to their location. Would that be a possibility? They're 8 to 10 hours from some Texas ports. So
This
less
need
than
to
a
be
day.
studied, the cost per watt, the effective of the shipment, and the cost per watt for the production need to be considered in this way against the benefit for the location. It's important to understand that first before taking the decision.
Okay. Uh, we've got two more questions. If you have any other questions, go ahead and filter those in. But we've got another question from Kelly O'Brien. Would rail be considered in conjunction with ports? And I think that kind of feeds into the previous question
Yeah.
in terms of using it. But the importance there is it would have to be rail served. Is that part of your plans? It's not. Is it a direct need originally, a rail served, or would it? I mean, obviously, it'd have to be rail served. If not, but have you considered rail?
Again, it highly depends on the cost per unit of the product. I mean, the effectiveness of the shipment, because we saw that before. I mean, sometimes the shipping can really contribute a big chunk of the cost of the product, and it will affect that badly.
Okay, and so um, I guess the side question to that, if you did use rail, would you foresee it more of an incoming from product that you're producing, outgoing, shipping it to your distributors, or a balance?
No, I think it's balance. I think it's balance because we are. I mean, targeting the internal market today. So both sides, either internal or incoming or outgoing material, will be almost the same.
Okay. I've got Kurt Jensen. Kurt, I'm going to go ahead and ask your question. It's over in the chat part. Have you considered any ports already? And do you have any preferences that have been in your initial search?
Not really. No, not really.
Okay.
No, we don't have something. I mean, in mind. I mean, fixed in mind yet. Maybe the southern side looks a little bit attractive. I can see a question here about Mexico. So, in case we have some raw materials, for example, that we can secure from Mexico, going to the southern side might really save some time in shipment.
Okay. Perfect. So yeah, you answered Yvette Sanchez. She's a great community of ours in Texas. Got another question that just popped in. Samuel Diaz. What's the maximum distance from port that you'd consider?
Yeah, I think 200 kilometer might be the maximum. I mean, like what we have today is around 200 kilometer in our current
Okay.
facility.
And Sam is out in California from Tulare. We really appreciate you coming in here today. If there are no other questions, we'll get into how to submit on the project. If you have a question, go ahead and file it in. Um, Submissions for project solar system. We're going to throw up the poll, and it's our quickest way to engage with communities that are interested in submitting. Go ahead and click yes if you feel like you're going to be putting in a submission. That'll give our team and our community, what we call community assessment directors, the ability to reach out to you directly, get your submission in, and work you through that. Submissions are due by September 3rd at 5 p.m. So don't wait. Go ahead and start getting those in. We want plenty of time to organize those and do a presentation to Muhammad and his team. Um, our community assessment directors, so you understand, they receive these submissions, they reach out to you, they walk you through your submission, make sure it's exactly what we're looking for and what they're needing, and then we will submit those to Muhammad and the team for their review. I would anticipate, might as well ask you, when would you like anticipate wanting to take some site visits? Actually getting them feet on the ground and taking a look at some buildings and sites.
Actually, Eric, I'll be in Louisiana in end of September. There's a show there, and we are exhibiting. So might be before or after that trip, so I can combine them together.
Okay.
No.
So those, what show is it? Just in case some of our communities
It's
will be
Solar
attending
Power
that show.
International. It's I think it's the biggest in the U.S. It's related only for solar business.
Okay. Might be a good opportunity to meet face to face with some of these communities, and
Sure.
from there we can plan some site visits. As a reminder, the recording links and submissions, if you have questions about that, send them to Brooke Edwards at GSLIsolutions.com. And please make sure, because sometimes our portal has a third party um, system and Zoom does. So a lot of times your firewalls might break communication. So make sure you do whitelist our email addresses so that there's smooth communication between the two. Um, Here are the contacts. So Ashley, if you have any specific questions about the project, you can reach out to Ashley at gslisolutions.com. Our two amazing community assessment directors are Amanda Tompkins. She works with projects and communities day in and day out, and so does Carol. Best way is either on LinkedIn, which you can find them by looking them up in LinkedIn, or email them directly. Amanda's Amanda at gslisolutions.com, and Carol is at Carol at gslisolutions.com. I want to thank everybody. Mohammed, thank you. I know it's late
Thank you,
there.
Eric.
You
No
probably need
problem.
to get to bed.
Yeah.
And Diana, thank you for taking out your time from your
Thank you so much,
vacation
Eric.
to be on here today. And Ian, I hope some of the questions and answers help you formulate your thoughts when you're putting together your perspectives from the CFO standpoint. And more importantly, I want to thank the communities. I know you're busy each and every day running your communities, building your communities. We want to be able to make these as efficient for you to get information from the projects and get to know the projects, and really deselect yourselves if you don't feel there's a good match. We've got plenty more projects, but if there's a great match, we want to be able to present your community to Muhammad and his team, and potentially bring those 289 jobs to the U.S. and make your community even that more robust. So, with that said, I have no more questions in there. I want to thank everybody again.
Thank you very
Until
much.
our next GSLI, Muhammad, thank you.
Thank
Um,
you.
and till our next GSLI project live event, we're going to sign off here from our Dallas offices. And thank you and good day.
Good day. Bye.
Bye, everybody.